Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tech with Sach. My name is Sachin, a Google developer expert. And in this very special episode, we'll be learning how to build a chatbot from scratch. And at the same time, we will also learn what are the tools and features that's available for you to accelerate your chatbot development. So without further ado, let's get started. So if you're joining us for the very first time, welcome to the channel. And if you would like to continue to see the latest updates and contents from being chatbot development to cloud, augmented reality, virtual reality, make sure that you click that subscribe button as well as the bell icon so that you can be notified for future videos. So without further ado, let's get started with our first session for today. So what exactly will we be building today? So as I said, this is a New Year edition, and I'm super excited to have everyone joining us today for this live stream. So to get started, we'll actually learn how to create your own chatbot from scratch. So again, the aim of this tutorial series is to make sure that you understand all the tools, the features, and techniques that you can actually use and leverage to accelerate your chatbot development. We've done a bunch of tutorials in the past on how to create a chatbot from scratch, and we've taken it step by step. And this will also be part of the Ultimate Chatbot Tutorial Series. I know a lot of you are joining in the live stream. I can see the chat as well. So make sure that let's keep this entire session engaging, and you can be part of the stream as well. So we'll be actually starting off with building a Dialogflow agent from scratch. Just a refresher for people who are joining us for the very first time. And then we will also learn about knowledge-based connectors. So this would also be a very interesting topic on how you can actually accelerate your chatbot development. And from there, we will learn about pre-built agents, messenger integration, rich responses, telephony, future use cases, and sessions. So there's a lot. And again, at the end of today's session, make sure you be part of this session towards the end. I have a very special announcement. At the same time, we have a live demo for you as well. Again, just to kind of summarize, this is where we started off. In the previous tutorials, we did everything from building this chatbot from scratch. We went into each and every details about chatbot development, some of the core concepts, integrating with different platforms like Dialogflow Messenger, Facebook, WhatsApp, Slack, Telegram, and so on. We also learned about how you can integrate with your own Google Calendar and backend. Today, we'll also be covering something about rich responses, SSML, chatbot using Dialogflow and Flutter. So these are some of the things that we've covered in the past. And towards the end, we kind of took the whole thing to another level by having this whole integration with a human agent. So if at all you want to transfer your chat to a human agent, how to do that, and also how you can leverage things like sentiment analysis to understand the emotion of the user or the sentiment of the user. With that being said, let's actually get started with the session. So the first thing to do is we're going to learn how to build our own chatbot from scratch by using a tool called Dialogflow. So the first thing you can do is go to dialogflow.com. And for the purpose of this demo and for everyone who's joining us today, as some of our subscribers, they would already know that most of our sessions, I try and keep it as hands-on as possible. So what that means is for today's session, I've created a brand new Gmail account so that along the way, we would cover each and every step. So this is going to be more like a documentation of all the steps that's needed for you guys to actually go ahead and build some of these applications. Okay, so when you go to dialogflow.com, it will actually redirect you to cloud.google.com/dialogflow. And the reason for this is Dialogflow has two versions, which is the ES Essentials or the CX. Now, we'll have sessions. We did sessions on Dialogflow CX, so you can definitely check out those tutorials as well. We had the wonderful Lee Boonstra from Google joining me for those the long and documented sessions on how to build complex agents using Dialogflow CX. Now, for people who are joining us for the very first time and have no idea about chatbots, a quick reminder: Dialogflow is actually a natural language understanding platform that you can actually build chatbots at a very rapid pace. It's easy. It's a platform that you can actually build chatbots and then, or design chatbots and then easily integrate to your website and to other platforms. So in a nutshell, that's what Dialogflow does. So for the purpose of today's session, we'll be going with Dialogflow ES so that it's easily accessible for each and every one of you. So you can click on Dialogflow ES, which would actually take us to the screen. And the reason for this is now we are actually going deep dive into actually creating something from scratch. And I can see people joining. Thank you all for joining the live stream today. So we will have a separate session for Q&A. So make sure that you leave your questions and thoughts in the comment section. So the first thing to do is go to the Dialogflow ES console. So this would actually open up the Dialogflow platform, right? So if you guys are joining if this is the first time that you're using Dialogflow, this is the screen that you would see. Now, what I'm going to do right now is walk you through the basics. So this is just a refresher. We've done this in the past. So all you have to do is click on Create Agent. And I'm going to make sure that my screen is a little more bigger so that it's easier for you to see. So the way how Dialogflow treats everything is in form of agent, right? So we need an agent that would basically represent the bot that you're going to create. So you can actually create an agent over here. Let's say tech with search or anything. So let's say special agent. Okay, so we are just going to create an agent called special agent. And below this, you would find things like language, your time zone. And the most important aspect is you'll see by doing this, you will automatically behind the scenes, what's happening is when you create this agent, you're actually creating a GCP project. So what is a GCP project? It's basically a Google Cloud project. So everything that you're doing over here behind the scenes, it is actually creating a project in Google Cloud. So let's go ahead and click on Create. And while our agent is being created, as I said, behind the scenes, all of this setup is actually being done and a Google Cloud project is also being created. Now you can see that once this is created under the settings page, you will actually find your Google Cloud project. And that is also another reason why I want to make sure that before we go into more complex tutorials, we will cover some of these aspects and also give you guys tutorials on Google Cloud, how it works, how you can actually build serverless applications on Google Cloud and so on. So now that we've created our app, before we go and do anything, on the extreme right, you'll see that you have a simulator, right? So all I can do is if you just go and type hi, this would immediately say, greetings, how can I assist? Now for people who are wondering, how did this happen? Where is this response coming from? Now, without anything, we just have a very simple chatbot working, which is wonderful, right? So now what we need to do is try and understand how this is working. We didn't do anything. How is the chatbot responding saying, greetings, how can I assist? Now, if you carefully look below that, it says intent is default welcome intent. And these are the key things that you need to understand about Dialogflow, right? So if you understand these concepts, building a chatbot is going to be a breeze, right? The first concept is intents. What are intents? Think about intents as any conversation that the user is having. What is the intent behind it? What is that the user is trying to say? So that is basically what intent is. And then the next one is entities. So you'll find entities over here. So entities are basically if you want to extract some key information from within the conversation. So let's say you have a bot where you have a food delivery bot that you have created, and you want to make sure that you extract some key information like, I want to order a pizza, a large size pizza with extra cheese. Now you want to make sure that things like keywords like extra cheese, large size pizza, all of that is captured. So those are typically entities. So entities are keywords that you want that can be extracted from within the conversation. And intents are basically based on the conversation that the user is having. What is the intent behind it? So that's why you go ahead and create intents. I hope this alone gives you an idea about intents and entities. And we won't be going deep into intents and entities today because there are a bunch of tutorials that we've done in the past. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel as well as go back and see the ultimate chatbot tutorial series. Start from the very beginning. You will go and cover all of these topics in detail. Okay, so now that we have a basic understanding of intents and entities, let's actually start with this. Try and understand how this is working. So this is happening because we have a default welcome intent. So when you go and click on the default welcome intent, you'll see a few things, right? So come down, you will see that you have something called as training phrases. Okay. And you'll also see events. So events, just keep this at the back of your head. I'll tell you why we are using this and how this would be relevant. But if you come down to the training phrases, you'll soon see that, okay, unlike building traditional applications where you're just gonna write code or logic and if-else conditions and stuff like that, the way how we build conversational actions or conversational apps is by training, right? Training the AI to understand what the user might say. So typically I would say at least have a minimum of 8 training phrases so that the ML or the AI can understand what the conversation is about. And below that, you will also see responses. So if you saw that, hi, how are you doing? Hello, how can I help? Good day, greetings. So you would see that under the text response, one of these conversations would be matched the moment anyone has this conversation, which is under the training phrase. So when I said hi, Dialogflow was smart enough to identify that based on my conversation, which was hi, it is the default welcome intent which should be matched. Great. So that was one step that was done. And from there, what is the response that the bot should respond with based on the intent? So in our case here, it is these text responses. Again, we'll cover a lot more that you can do with the responses. As you can see, for different platforms, you have the option to actually have their own version of responses, right? So now that we have an understanding of how the intent works, you can even go ahead and remove some of these, right? And I can say, greetings, a special bot or you can just put, I am a special bot created for this live stream, right? So in your case, it could be any business related activity that your bot is. So you can say, I'm a special bot created for so and so reason. So you can have all of this going on. Then you can also say, always make sure, this is a conversational design guideline, a tip, never keep your conversations open-ended. So what I mean by that is, when you just say, greetings, how can I help? What's going to happen? It's like, I need help in so many things, right? So you want to make sure that your conversations are close-ended, or your conversations or responses are directing the user towards a specific action. So in this case, what we're going to do, I'm going to say, I'm a special bot created for this live stream. I can, let's say, I can help you in answering queries about Google Cloud Storage. And I'll come down to what that means. So now we've given a purpose for this bot. So during the greeting itself, you're going to understand what this bot is about, and it's all about helping answer queries about Google Cloud Storage. I can help you in answering queries about Google Cloud Storage. Perfect. So let's just go with that for the time being. And we can go ahead and always edit and change. At the same time, you can also go and create new intent and kind of play around with more and more information. So for this tutorial, we won't be doing that, because the purpose of this is how you can actually do some quick hacks to accelerate your chatbot development. I'm sure that you guys would go back and look at the other tutorials and build your own intents and the entire chatbot development. Now, for people who would be part of an organization, a company, a startup, you would say, Sachin, all of this is great, but I have a lot of information that we have within the company. Is there a quick and easy way that we can actually go ahead and bring that information to our chatbot? What is the easiest way that we can do that? And I would always say that, yeah, there is, in fact, a quick and easy way to get that done. So how you can do that is by knowledge base. So as you can see, it's still in beta, but what you can do is, before we go to the knowledge base connectors, we do need to do few settings before we get started with that. So let's go ahead and click on this gear icon, or the settings icon, which represents your agent. So over here, you'll find that you have a feature called as enable beta features. We just did that. Go ahead and save this. Okay. And at the start of this specific live stream, I did mention that everything that you do in Dialogflow behind the scenes, it's all under a Google Cloud project, right? So this is what I meant. So you'll see under your settings, you'll find a Google project. A project ID is already created for you, and this is your Google Cloud project ID. And in fact, if you click on this, it will just open up the Google Cloud console. Okay. Now that we have some basic understanding of how that works and we've enabled the feature, let's go to knowledge base. Okay, so the way how knowledge base connectors work is, you can actually provide your existing website URL or any CSV document to Dialogflow with all the information in it, so that Dialogflow can basically scrap all the information from within your website and show the information directly in your chatbot. Okay, so how this would work? Very simple. So let's go ahead and create a knowledge base. Okay, so let's give it a name. We're just going to call it FAQ. So I just created one knowledge base, which is called FAQ. Now we need to add a document, right? So what is the document? So it's going to be like this. So just click create the first one. And here again, we will go through some of the tips and tricks on how you can actually get different sources as knowledge base connectors. So in this case, I'm just going to put storage FAQ. So the knowledge base type, here we are going to use the FAQ. So frequently asked questions. So most of our websites, we typically have the FAQ documents, right? So with FAQ documents, what we can do is, if you already have this in your website, and again, apart from that, there's also some key information that we will have to keep in mind for this to work. I'll come down to that after this. So here, what we're going to do is, you have two options. One is text or HTML, or text or CSV. What we're going to do over here is choose the HTML version, which is the most simplest option. And for the data source, you can choose the URL, right? So any URL which follows the FAQ schema markup, it will automatically be able to extract the information. So what is that FAQ schema markup? I will come down to that once we see this working. So for the purpose of this demo, I have a URL. So let's actually see what that is. So this is a Google Cloud documentation or FAQ page, which basically answers all about Google Cloud storage, right? So you'll find things like this. Does cloud storage offer service level agreement? How do I enable billing? So there's a lot of questions and answers over here. These are typically already available. So we're just going to copy this link, come back here, paste this. And in the past, I believe we've done the same concepts for quickly building a chatbot that can answer COVID related questions, right? So we use the URL from the CDC, which is the official website. And then we just use the FAQ page from there. And we had a complete bot that could answer all the information related to COVID. So, and you also have this enable automatic reload. So what this does is, by enabling auto reload, Dialogflow will automatically reload the document every day. So let's say that you have a website where you're updating contents by yourself, and that's a very key important aspect. If the FAQ page do not include a page where the data is being updated by users, so this should be a page which is only updated by the company, the source, only one, right? So which is you as an entity or you as a company. So it will, whenever you update the values over there or the responses, it will automatically take it into consideration. So that's what enable automatic reload is. Okay, so let's go ahead and click create. So this would take a few seconds. So what it's doing right now is it's going to that link, making sure that as long as it's able to access that, it will automatically take all the data from there, and then it will create a knowledge base document. So you can see by now you have a document created message, and perfect. We just created a knowledge base document. How easy was that, right? So if you go ahead and try and understand what has just happened behind the scenes, you can actually go ahead and click on view detail. So all of those question and answers are automatically scrapped, and then you have all the information readily available over here. Wonderful, right? So we didn't do anything. So we come back to knowledge base. There's one more thing that we need to do. If you go back here, now that we've created a knowledge base, we created a knowledge base document, linked it with the source, which is a URL. And we need, apart from just linking it, we need to also have let me just make sure. Okay. So apart from that, we need to make sure that we have this up and running. So what is that? The response for that. So the response for that is, all you need to do is click on add response. And by default, you can see that it will automatically add the value, which is knowledge.answer1, right? This is all you need to do. If you're looking for what the question is, you can put $knowledge.question1. That would be the question that is being matched. So now that we've created a knowledge base, we've created a knowledge base connector, we've added a document, which is in the form of FAQ, and we've attached a source, and then we've added a response. Save this. Now let's go ahead and talk to our agent, right? So the first thing that we did is, you remember the greetings message? We changed that. So let's say when we did hi, now it says, greetings, I'm a special bot created for this live stream. I can help you in answering queries about Google Cloud Storage. So that's our greeting, right? Now we've defined what's the purpose of this bot. This bot is all about creating just answering just queries about Google Cloud Storage. Now with our knowledge base feature, what we've now done is we use the existing website contents as a source to answer our queries. So let me try and say, how do I enable billing? So you can immediately see that we have a response which says, if you want to create your own buckets and store data in them, you must enable billing. And where is this coming from? If you go back here, it's the same response that's coming from the source, which is our FAQ page, right? How wonderful is this? We've not done much coding. No, absolutely no coding at all. All we've done is click a bunch of buttons and configure, and we have a bot which is running. Now you can actually go ahead and try asking it other things, right? Like let's ask another, where is my data stored? So you don't have to even ask the exact same question. You can even ask it in a different way. So immediately you see, you get the response. So this is actually wonderful. We have a fully functioning bot in a very quick time span. Now with that being said, let's actually go ahead and see some more things that we can do. So I just want to make sure that we go into some more details into knowledge base, because this would be very helpful for you. Okay, so if you go in to the knowledge base, as I said, we went through automatic reload. We understand what that is. You also have this option, which is adjust knowledge results preference. So what this means is, let's say that while you want to use the knowledge base that you have created, so let's imagine like this. So you've just created a knowledge base connector, right? At the same time, you've also created intents that handles the same thing. So you want to make sure that which gets more preference. Is it the intent that you created, or the knowledge base connector that you have attached with. So which source should be picked, which intent should be picked. So in that case, what we typically do is you go ahead and adjust this, right? So if you want your knowledge base results to be given much more preference, you can increase this or you can decrease this. So depending on that, if you have another intent which is matching this specific query, Dialogflow will make sure that based on this preference, it will either pick the one that you have created manually or the one that is coming from knowledge base. So I hope that basically clears some of the things. So this is a very important and useful feature, especially when you start building a lot more complex agents. The other thing to do is we just created a knowledge base with a URL. If you have an existing, let's say you have a CSV file with question and answers, you can actually go ahead and do that as well, right? So again, you can go through the documentation on the left. So if you go to the Dialogflow ES documentation, make sure that you're on the ES documentation, which is Dialogflow Essentials. And on the left side, you'll find all the documentations, especially if you go to knowledge connectors, you'll find all the details, right? So what to do, what to configure. And if you're thinking about having the question and answer in the form of cards, you can also do that, right? Now, another important aspect to know is within the knowledge base document that we created, you also have option to upload CSV, right? So you have CSV format, then you have the HTML format as well. So there are some general rules that apply, right? So you need to make sure that files from public URLs must have been crawled by Google Search Indexer. So if you just created something and you're saying, oh, Sachin, I followed all the steps, but for some reason it's not working. So this could be some of the reasons. So make sure that you come here and check some of these. If you're using a CSV file, make sure that it's, of course, since CSV, it should be comma separated. And most importantly, do not have any headers, right? Don't have any headers like question and answer. It will treat the first column in your CSV should be a question, and your second column in the CSV should be your answers for that. Okay. Just have a simple format in that aspect. So you could have a data source of information lying somewhere, and without using the FAQ page or the HTML page, you can actually download all of that into a CSV format. You can either host it somewhere like Google Cloud Storage or directly upload. So I hope these are some of the things that you need to keep in mind. The other important aspect is, Sachin, what you might ask, what is that? How do we make sure that our FAQ page meets the standards of Dialogflow? It's very easy. So if you come here, and all you need to make sure is your page follows the FAQ schema markup. So what is the FAQ schema markup? So go FAQ schema markup. So it's basically a way. So in fact, even this very search that we just did right now in Google, do you see this? A rich response. Instead of just clicks, we have all of the FAQs, like what is FAQ schema markup, and you have an answer. So this is possible because the website, this specific website, is following that structured data. So what does that look like? So if you come here, and this is again an example of what the FAQ document or FAQ page should look like for your website. So you might already have a FAQ page. Great. Now all you need to do is make sure, again, this is just not for the sake of Dialogflow alone. It is very useful for your SEO purpose as well, right? So if you want to make sure that your content is structured, so when your structured data, all what it looks like is something like this. So we have JSON LD, which is basically JSON linked data. All you have to do is add the script onto your website with all the questions and answers, right? So within the script, you can understand we have some concepts like, okay, what is the context? What is the type? Here, the schema markup type that we are talking about is we are saying that this is an FAQ page. Okay, great. Now within the FAQ page schema markup, the main entity, so we have a main entity, and within the main entity, we have few things. So what is it? Type, which is a question. Name, so this is the actual question. What is the return policy? And accepted answer, right? Again, within the accepted answer, we have type, which is stating that this is an answer, and text. You can provide the answer within the text component, right? So this is how you actually design an FAQ markup page. So if you're wondering how to build an FAQ page, if you already have it, great. You can use your existing website, but make sure it follows the structured data or FAQ schema markup. If you are more interested in schema markups, you can actually go to schema.org, which basically gives you all the information and the data type. And again, it's just not for FAQ page. We have tons of schemas that you guys can follow. But for the purpose of knowledge base connectors and Dialogflow, FAQ page is the schema markup that it uses, right? So if you again search for main entity, so this is the one that is highlighted, and within that you'll also see information like this, right? So it's a very cool thing. So make sure that you guys go ahead and try it out. You have these things for different things like reviews, for recipes, for FAQs. So schema markup is actually a very cool and interesting concept, especially when you're building your sites. So make sure you include them as part of your development. Okay, great. So now that we have a basic understanding of FAQ and how everything works, let's go back to our bot. So this kind of summarize where we are right now. We just created a very simple agent. We created a knowledge base. We've connected a bunch of things to the knowledge base. And for people who are joining us for the very first time, make sure to hit that subscribe button as well as the bell icon so that you can be notified for future videos. Again, I'm super excited to continue these live streams every week. We just crossed 5,000 subscribers. So with a small amount of videos, you guys are amazing. You guys have been very supportive. I want to make sure that everyone is included as part of the stream. So make sure that if you have any questions after the stream, make sure you leave them in the comment section. And if you're interested in more tutorials down, not just on chatbots and conversational AI, if you'd like to learn more about Google Cloud, certifications, and so on, do let me know in the comment section. I'll be more than willing to do those series as well. And at the end of all of this, the aim is not just to learn one technology, right? The aim is always how you can learn different technologies and how you can combine all of that to build an awesome product. That should always be the aim. Okay, so moving on to the next one. You say, Sachin, great. We just created a very simple chatbot. We were lazy enough to just use knowledge base connectors to actually have all the information readily available for us. So how do we add this to our website? So that leads us to the integrations. So in the past tutorials, you would have seen that I literally went through all of these integrations, right? In fact, things that's not even integrated here, like WhatsApp and other things. So we use some open source mechanism. We integrated with Twilio and then integrated with WhatsApp and so on. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm just sticking with 2 integrations for today, which is to actually show you how the bot is actually working. So let's go with the web demo first. So what this gives you an idea is the web demo allows you to just copy this iframe and include it into your HTML page, and that's it. So all you have to do is that, and you have an entire bot working, right? Integrated or embedded into your website. So you might ask, how does that look? So here's an example of how it might actually look. So if you go in and over here, you can say hello. So this is again our greetings message. Wonderful. It's perfectly behaving the way that we want it. And we can also ask about the cloud storage, right? So let's stick to how do I enable billing for my cloud storage. So let's see if the bot can understand this. Great. So even though it's not the exact same question that is in the source, it was smart enough to identify that this is what I was asking, right? So we have all the data coming in from the knowledge base connectors. We have this working. You can also use the mic and take the input as voice as well. Okay, so that probably answers some of the questions in the chat. I see that, can we make the chatbot take in voice commands? Yes, you can. And give me a voice output? Yes, you can. So if you're interested in doing a lot more of customizations, you can actually use the Dialogflow API to do that. Okay, so let's see how you can actually go ahead and build all of this, right? Now, with all of that being said, let's switch to the next part, next integration, which is gonna be, let's say, Dialogflow Messenger. So this is also a very cool item. And again, as we do some of these for our existing viewers or members, you will also learn some more information than you did in the past. So let's go ahead and click on enable. Great. So if you think about integrations, just visualize and see how easy this was. We enabled the Dialogflow Messenger, and all you have to do is copy this code onto your website, right? It's as easy as it is. Now, with all of this being done, you can do this. If you actually want to try this out, you can click on this Try It Now button. So what this does is it emulates how your chatbot would be when you integrate this code into your own website, right? So let me make sure that you guys see the full view. So immediately you could see a pop-up over here which says, greetings, I'm a special bot created for this live stream. And when you click on this, you have this options again, right? So what are the options? Again, I can say, how do I enable billing and let's say, what are the tools available for cloud storage? Perfect. So you can see that we have a fully functioning bot answering all the information that we need, right? Now, the interesting aspect over here is between the web demo, you had to initiate it with a hello, right? And then that's how we've designed it. Now, in the Dialogflow Messenger, you would have noticed, if I close this again, let me close this, open this, and when I click on try now, the moment you go into your website, your bot automatically gives you the greetings message. Now, can someone tell me how this is done? Right? How is this happening behind the scenes? What is responsible for making sure that you have this greetings message or the welcome intent response automatically pop up? Now, this is possible because of a feature within your agent. And I did touch upon this in the very beginning. I told you guys that we'll come back to this. And it is all happening because of this event. So events are a special way that you can actually use some of these events to trigger something. So you can see optional way to trigger intent without the or spoken input. Use predefined platform specific events or define your custom ones. So this is another easy way that you can actually use. So this welcome event is the one responsible for that initial message automatically popping up. So I'll go back to integrations again. Go back to Dialogflow Messenger. Try it now. And within a few seconds, you'll see that it's up. So this is happening because of that welcome event. Okay. So I hope that was a quick tip that probably I'm not sure whether we covered it. If not, now you know. Okay, great. So now that we have this all working, let's actually go ahead and see some of these things. So let's go ahead and go into the next part. So if you look at what we've covered so far, so we did agents from scratch. We connected with knowledge base connectors. We also did messenger integration. Now, maybe before we move on to pre-built agents, let's also look at rich responses, right? So what are rich responses? So if you look at all the responses that we are currently getting, it's in the form of a text, right? Sometimes you would want more information about more visual information that you would like your bot to have. So how is that possible? So that's possible using rich responses. So let's go ahead and see how we can have rich responses. So the first thing that you need to do is let's go to intents. Let's go to a very first welcome intent. So we have a response over here, right? So within this, depending on the platform that you're building, you can actually have, let's say if you're building for, again, the one with the Google Assistant, it's deprecating. So I wouldn't advise you guys to focus on Google Assistant over here. But for other platforms, you can actually use this and add your response for those specific platforms. Now, what I'm going to do is for Dialogflow Messenger, we have different responses that you can do. And typically, and this is also a very important thing, even if you are not using this platform, if you're building your own chat interface, you can actually make use of this custom payload. Okay. So within this custom payload, you can go ahead and go back to the documentation and search for Dialogflow Messenger or rich responses. You'll find. So let's do that. So this is again an interesting way for you to spice up the whole chatbot experience, right? Rather than just having it in the form of purely text response, you can actually use this to have much more visual responses to the user. So things like you have card, you have quick response, all of this, right? So is go through the documentation, and over here, let's actually search for Dialogflow Messenger. Okay, which is this. And here we go. And for people who are wondering, what if I want to change the color of, the entire messenger when it pops up onto my website? You can actually use this code, right? While you're embedding the code, make sure that you can change some of these aspects to make sure that your bot is themed according to your product, right? So that's also a very easy way to do that. And apart from that, what you can also see is the settings above will result in this. So this is again example of how you can theme the messenger. If you go down, you'll start seeing rich response messages, right? So it will give you an example of each and everything. So this is your custom payload, right? So in this case, it is just the type is info. It will have a title, a subtitle, and an image, and a link. Okay, so that's how it looks. If you're looking for much more complex things, you can do that. If you're just looking for an image response, this is all you need to do. So let's go ahead and try some of these just so that you guys understand how rich responses work, right? So let's copy this. So this is a rich response that is basically in the form of an image. So it basically shows an image. That's all. So let's go ahead and go back to our bot. Over here in the custom payload, we're just going to copy this and make sure, let's say we can get an image of cloud storage icon. A logo. Just gonna quickly copy something from the internet. So while I do that, make sure that you guys have all of your questions and queries in the comment section. Okay, for the purpose of demo, I'm just gonna create an image of Google Cloud. Okay, so this is just a URL. Let's see if this works. I just took it out from online, and let's go back to our bot. Let's go to fulfillment. Integrations. Let's go to Dialogflow Messenger. And let's try this out. And there you go, right? You see how easy it was. So let me make sure that you guys have the full view over here. So just by adding that specific payload or the custom payload, we have a rich response. So we have a greetings with a logo. So in this case, sometimes you might want the logo to be up, the image to be up, and then the greeting message. You can do that as well, right? So I hope you guys understood how rich responses are. Again, this is just scratching the surface. If you actually go and see more information over here, so this is how list response looks like. Sometimes you would want the user to have a quick response, right? So let's say apart from just the messages, you want the user to also identify. Let's do this, copy this information, and I'm gonna come back here. So what this is doing is we are adding suggestion chips. So the reason why we are adding suggestion chips, again, this is a very clever way for you to actually direct the users to give them prompts or suggestions to continue the conversations. Okay, great. So if you go now back to your agent, so let's go to the intent, the welcome intent, and we're gonna go and change this custom payload. I'm just gonna delete that. Add this custom payload that we just took. So the first one, let's say enable, or you can just say billing. Okay, and the other question could also be and let's say we have another chip which says support options. So these are questions that you might want to ask, but using these chips, what we are doing is we are automatically doing that for the user, right? And you can also provide them the link to those exist. If you have some specific product page listing or website, you can actually use this listing over here, right? So let's go ahead and click on save. Of course, the images might not work, but you get the idea what we are doing. So as long as you have proper images over here, you will see a small icon next to these suggestion chips. Okay, so we've come a long way right now. So let's go ahead and just test this out. Go back to integrations, click on the Dialogflow Messenger again, try it now. And there you go. By having these suggestion chips now, and this is the beauty behind this, when I click on that, it will take you to that specific website, right? So you can do that, or you can also remove those links and use this also as a prompt to continue the conversation. So everything is possible by following the rich response. Okay, and if you need a much more complicated response, you can also have a combination of multiple things, right? So here it's a rich content with an image, an info, then you have chips. Perfect. So I hope you guys actually have a clear idea about how to add a custom payload and how to add rich responses. Now we've come down, we kind of covered all of these. So what's left as part of this session is, now that we have a fully functioning bot up and running, you might think, okay, Sachin, of course, in the real world, if the bot is only supposed to answer these information, you have a completely fully functioning bot up and running. But if your bot is about connecting to the backend, checking the status of the order, getting all that information, you need to use fulfillment, right? So fulfillment is a way for you to use your existing webhooks or your backend, and then pass the information that you collect from the chatbot to your backend, process it, and send the response back to the user. Okay, so great. So now that we've done all of this, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, which is gonna be pre-built agents. And before we move on to pre-built agents, I did also want to highlight a very nifty feature, which is small talk. So you can also use small talk with all of this. Again, small talk, it has its limitations, especially if you're using knowledge base and other things. Small talk cannot work alongside with that. But if you are just creating a simple chatbot, you can use small talk. And I've done this in the previous tutorials. But what's new is we haven't covered pre-built agents. Okay. And the cool thing about pre-built agents is, let me actually show you guys. So let's go ahead and click on pre-built agents. And again, this would actually create a completely new agent from scratch. So the purpose of this pre-built agents are, let's say that you have a product, or you're a business or a startup doing a specific activity. You can actually use these as templates to quickly accelerate your chatbot development, right? So what does that mean is you can actually use this as a blueprint for you to actually go ahead and, oh, this is how the intents are created. This is how the conversational flow is happening. So you can actually use this as a learning curve and also as a template to accelerate your chatbot development. So let's go ahead and do that. And we have one more demo that I want to show. Let's do that after this. Okay. So let's go ahead and click on import. So first thing that probably what we can try is the banking. As you know, if you call your bank right now, how frustrating it is, because you have to go through the whole IVR setup, right? Click 1 for English, 2 for Hindi, or 2 for any other language. And then once you click on that, then you have to go through a bunch of other buttons. By the time you actually reach to the point of what you actually need, you give up on the call, and the call would be already 2 minutes, 3 minutes past the conversation. So having a chatbot over here is a very cool thing. Why? Because all you need is one specific information that you want your bot to answer. And by doing that, if I just say, okay, what's my current balance? And it's just going to give me the information. Or of course, you'll have to have a way of, authentication and all of those things. But nevertheless, let's say all you have to do is, what is the eligibility to apply for a home loan? And the bot will give you that information and you have it readily available, right? Without the need for you to go through all of that. So let's go ahead and click on some of these. So click on import. So we are going to create a banking agent. So you can see over here, the new agent name is banking. And let's go ahead and wait for this to complete. And I'm also going through the chat at this point. So I have a question over here. Testing the cloud functions fastly. Redeploying the fulfillment cloud function takes time. Is there a recommended practice to deploy and test rapidly? So again, it depends on how your cloud function, how you're using the cloud functions. If you're using the inbuilt cloud function or the Google Cloud Functions directly created from GCP. We'll be creating all of those things in the upcoming sessions. So as I said, there's a lot to cover. I'm happy that we have these weekly live streams ready. So you'll have a lot of those things. Again, when it comes to fulfillments, I don't want to directly jump into that just because there'll be a lot of questions. How does this work? How does that work? So that's the reason why I want to make sure that we build it up so that we have the foundation and understanding, so that all the viewers who are just getting started in this space have a complete idea of how it is done. Another question, can I create a session with the webhook address and stream the text directly? So let's bring some of these questions up. Yes, you can. You can definitely do that, right? And this was the previous question. Thank you. Thank you, Tibor. And so we have another question. To have a chatbot multi-channel, I guess it's better to make a backend with Python and send only the context with webhooks. Again, it completely depends on how you want to handle it. Again, Dialogflow has an amazing API, Dialogflow API. You can actually use that. In fact, probably in the future episodes, I'll also show you how you can actually use the Dialogflow API to create an Angular chatbot connecting to a Node.js, all of those things. So that would give you guys much more deeper insights into how to use the API. Great. So let's actually go ahead and see some of these. Thank you, Rachid. Thank you all. Thanks for the comments. Keep it coming. I'm looking through the chat. We will have these more covered during as part of this session. So thank you all. Keep it coming. Now let's move on to the next one, which is going to be the pre-built agents. So as you can see, we just created a pre-built agent. Now let's go and see what that agent is. Now, by just using the pre-built agent, you have an idea about how all the intents that it has created, right? So let's go ahead and see what this actually looks like. So you can either try it out over here, or you can even go to integrations. Let's actually see it in our Dialogflow Messenger and see how the whole chatbot looks like, right? So it says, hello, welcome to Acme Bank. Okay, what is my current balance? So it's asking me, and let me make sure that you guys are able to see this clearly. What is my current balance? It says balance for which, savings or checking. So I say savings. And here's your latest balance. So again, this is just a template, so you won't actually see a specific balance. So how is all of this happening? So let's try and understand this a bit better by actually going down to using the simulator, which will actually give you a much more better insight into what's happening behind the scenes, right? So we have the default welcome intent. And for people who are wondering what is this fallback intent, just like the welcome intent, the fallback intent is the default fallback intent is usually the one where, let's say you ask something out of whatever you've designed, right? In that case, what would happen is you would have this, the Dialogflow will understand that, okay, there is no intent that is matched. So let me go to the default fallback intent and give the response over there. So that would be a typical generic response like, sorry, I didn't get that. I'm afraid I don't understand. Sorry, say that again. All of those things, right? So these are actually, the basic foundations. The fallback intent is basically when the bot didn't understand what you're trying to say. And another quick tip over here is you can also make sure your fallback intents are edited in such a way that you redirect the user back to the question, right? So these are some of the conversational design guidelines. And I can see there's a comment that says sample agents are really useful in understanding features of Dialogflow. Exactly. You'll find a lot of samples over here. And this is, again, a wonderful way for you guys to understand some of the core concepts of Dialogflow. So if I go ahead over here and say hi, thanks for choosing Acme Bank. Again, it's not a great template in terms of the conversation design guidelines. It's not asking me to what should I do next, right? So this is actually a very bad example in terms of how you should have your greeting message. Always remember what I said in the way how we designed our previous one. Direct the user towards a specific action. Now, with that being said, let's actually go ahead and see what all it can do. Now, over here, you can see there is an option to transfer money. So if you go ahead and click on that, you see a drop down as so these are follow-ups. So what are follow-up intents? Follow-up intents are a way for you to, let's say, and you will understand this especially when I click on the actual transfer.money intent. So here they have trained the bot to understand some of these conversations. So I need to send $2 to savings from checking, right? So you're transferring money from one account to another, and you've given some training phrases for the bot to understand. The ones that are highlighted, these are entities, right? So these are entities that you're extracting from the conversation. And below that, you'll also see that you have these required parameters. So what are the required parameters? The account, from, the account to, and the amount. Okay. And for each of these, you also have prompts. So what are the prompts? Sure, transfer from which accounts? And you'll understand this when we actually have some of these conversations. And the response is automatically added. So you're transferring dollar amount, which is again coming from here. So it will extract that amount from the conversation from your account from to a account to. Is that right? So the way how the bot is designed over here, it says, is that right? So you have two options, yes or no, right? So when you say yes, then it goes to the follow-up intent. So let's go back now to transfer money. You have yes and no. So what happens when you have transfer.money yes follow-up intent? Immediately over here is you say, these are your training phrases. So in the previous question, if you said yes, sure, of course, all of those things, it will then give you a response like, okay, I have processed your transfer. Your confirmation number is XYZ. So again, this is provided, let's say, if you connect to your backend and get all of the information, you can do that. Okay, so let's actually see this in action. And I'm going to open the intent so that you guys understand the flow as well. Okay, so you have two ways to do this. So I'm just going to say transfer. I need to transfer money. So I've not provided any other information. Now, immediately you'll see that the Dialogflow was smart enough to understand that the intent was transfer.money, okay, which is great. Now, within that, you'll see that there are some parameter values that's all empty, okay? And the reason is, when you come here, we've defined these are the parameters, and we've also made sure that these are required. Now, since these are required, you can see that it's going through the list of parameters that we should match or is required for this bot to proceed with the conversation, and immediately it has said, okay, great, sure, transfer from which account? So you remember, this is account from. Now if I continue this conversation, so this message is actually coming from this slot filling or this prompt. I'm just going to say transfer from savings. Okay, now the next question, next required field, which is account to. So to which account is the prompt over here? We are just going to say checking. And how much is the amount, right? And how much do you want to transfer? We're just going to say, I just want to transfer $5. And immediately, since we have met all the requirements over here, it has finally gone to the response. All right, so you're transferring $5, okay, from your savings account to a checking account. Is that right? And this is where the follow-up intent will go. So keep a tab of this. So far, the conversation is still under transfer.money. I'm gonna say yes. And the moment I say yes, the conversation has now moved to the follow-up intent, which is transfer.money/yes. Perfect. So now we have this entire thing working. Okay, I have processed your transfer, your confirmation numbers, so and so. So once again, if you're just getting started with a chatbot development and you want to understand some of the nuances, you can actually go to pre-built agents, look for the one that you like or which is close to your use case, and learn how it is being built. This is a great way for you guys to actually accelerate your chatbot development. Okay, so I hope you guys actually understood how to use pre-built agents. Again, it's a quick and easy way. Now, with all of this being said, you can also do one more integration. And I want to make sure that I show you guys this demo, which is the phone gateway. Okay, so Dialogflow has this Dialogflow phone gateway. What we'll do is we'll enable this. So you remember that I was actually telling you guys the frustrating part about the current customer care in the banks is you need to go through the whole IVR process. Now, what we're trying to emulate over here is with the same bot that we just currently have. How can we actually use this as, as a telephony application? So what does that mean is you can actually have a number created for you. And again, keep in mind, it's still a beta feature. The number that it has is only available currently in the United States. So keep that in mind. But you have a way of how the future is looking, right? So let's go ahead and just have one of these numbers. So I'm just going to go ahead and create this. And if everything works fine, you can see that it's a 30 days. So standard edition agents can reserve phone numbers for up to 30 days at a time. If you like permanent phone number, you need to upgrade and so on. So let's, for the purpose of this demo, we're just going to take this number. And if everything works fine, and let me see if this actually works. I'm just going to make sure that I call this number. Okay. And I'll bring it closer to the mic.
Your call cannot be completed at this time. Please hang up and try your call again later.
Okay, I'm not able to connect it. Let's see one more time. Let me make sure the number is correct. And again, you guys can try this out from your end. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not able to connect to at this point. But once this is done, you should be able to access this number, right? And get this information directly. So you can actually make a phone call and directly talk in a natural way, and your bot will answer all the information